Hi there, Marie. Congratulations on all your directing projects. I know you just directed an episode of Fox Cleaning Lady and also the directed CBS Good Sam, where you featured a Filipino character. And now you're doing an episode of All Rise, where Reggie Lee is starring as well. So talk
Yes.
about these projects.
Yes, I shot Cleaning Lady last year, September and October in Albuquerque. It was really wonderful because it was the first time I got to see sets for Filipino characters and got to even give input. So there's a scene, it came out on Monday actually, and there was a scene where Fiona cooks adobo. And that's, that's a little bit of putting a little bit more Filipino culture. I asked them if she could do that, and then she's even watching a teleserie, and I asked them, the producers as well, if she could do that. So it was really wonderful having them be so open to featuring Philippine culture. And then with Good Sam, I shot that in December in Toronto. And there's this beautiful, it's going to show, actually, sorry, I'm going to say it again. For Good Sam, we shot that in Toronto in December. And there's a beautiful gala. And the episode's coming out actually in Feb 23, so next week. And in the gala, there is a Filipino character there, and I was very happy that they were open to open ethnicities, and this character, he was the best person for it. So I was very happy to just at least one character, because you see Filipinos everywhere, all over the world.
Mhm. And for All Rise, you're doing it right.
For All Rise, I just wrapped shooting last night, late last night, and I was very excited. Actually, in my job interview for it, I told them, I was like, I'm so excited to work with Reggie Lee. He's Filipino, and they're like, oh, he's actually going to be in a different TV show, but he would have loved it if you were there. But I got to work with Ruthie Ann Miles, who played Imelda in Here Lies Love, and it was quite wonderful to meet her and get to work with her too.
Congratulations. Do you think Hollywood is changing and opening up more doors to women and women of color in all aspects of filmmaking?
I completely agree. I mean, I am proof positive that Hollywood is open to having female directors, directors of color, and even directors who, I mean, I am not American. I'm from the Philippines. I'm born and raised, and I'm a green card holder. And getting these opportunities is really proof positive that Hollywood is open to that.
As a woman of color, what challenges did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
When I moved to LA in 2013, it was really a different time when there really weren't a lot of opportunities, actually none. And it was in self-financing work and people who are champions, like for example, Stage 13, which is a Warner Brothers company. They asked me to do the pilot for Family Style, which is an unscripted food and pop culture show. That started opening more doors to me as a director, and as well as AFI's directing workshop for women, and getting institutions to believe in me and my work opened more and more doors. And wait, I lost steam for a second. So could you repeat the second half of the question, because I had a good answer for you?
So, can you please tell us how you also started as a filmmaker?
I wait, sorry, Janet. Can you repeat that first,
Question?
the last question, because I have an addition, but I forgot the last
Okay.
part.
As a woman of color, what challenges did you encounter and how did you overcome them?
As a woman of color and somebody who is under 5 feet, I get I always am they always don't assume that I'm the director. And so going onto a set and being confident and being very good at the job and proving every day that I deserve to be there as the role of the director is actually a big challenge. Um, a funny story, just yesterday, I was working, with a pretty new crew because we were working on multiple units, and somebody asked me for the batteries for the sound techs, and I said, they go, "Do you know where the batteries are?" And I said, "No, I don't, because I'm the director." And they thought that I was a PA. So that's something that I have to encounter pretty often. But it was something that I didn't encounter when I was shooting in the Philippines, because in the Philippines, they're very used to female directors. So only in moving to America, I had to get used to people assuming things because of my appearance and having to prove to them through the work that I deserve to be there.
So we're kind of advanced in that aspect.
Yes.
So, can you tell us how you started as a filmmaker? I know I read that your father used to have a Sony V8 and you used to play with it and record everything. So,
No,
talk about.
that is completely true. My dad, he loved movies, and so he actually had a Super 8 camera, film camera, and then, but unfortunately, he gave it away before I could play with it. So he got a Sony V8, and that's the piece of machinery I got to play with when I would say around 7 years old, probably. And I remember being in my Lola's house in Taft Avenue, and I would make videos. I would just go from room to room and make voiceovers. And that was probably the first thing I ever shot. And then I started making videos for high school. When I found out that I could actually make a video as a project and not make a paper, I started making more videos. So I would make a sci-fi video for one class, and then for another class I would make a claymation with molecules, and for chemistry class. And so that's where I really started, and then that's how I realized I wanted to take up film in college. So I went to Ateneo and I took up filmmaking, and I studied under Uro de la Cruz and Marilu Diaz-Abaya, and
Great.
was mentored by Tita Marilu very closely. And she actually would encourage me to go study film abroad.
Mm.
And then when I studied film abroad, I would come home and she would check up on me, pretty much until she passed away. She was really important to my formative years, and I think because I saw her on set, and because I saw the types of movies that she made and how passionate she was, I think I she became a role model for me to and so that's where. And then in college I was a musician, so I started with music videos because all my friends were in bands, and they asked me to make their music videos, and those bands ended up being Itchy Worms, Sandwich, Shudad, and then I even even the Eraserheads. I made my first music video was for the Eraserheads.
You mentioned making music videos. So, what kind of experience did the Philippine teach you? The Philippine experience.
I think directing in the Philippines, I think I've shot hundreds of things. Like I did 50 plus music videos, and then I did commercials, and then I did TV and Project Runway Philippines. So in being on these hundreds of sets with all kinds of budget levels, all kinds of difficulties, like, sometimes they'll say you don't have money, and then I'll be like, I'll do it, and I'll figure out a way. Or sometimes they'll say, do you have all this money? And I work with film with on a bamboo music video. It really trained me to be prepared for everything and anything. So now getting the opportunity to work on these big Hollywood TV shows, if there's a challenge, it really is. I'm unfazed by it. I'm like, it's fine. I've done. We could figure it out. Because there was one, if I can shoot in a bat cave in a storm, or shoot during Typhoon Milenio, like I can shoot anything here. It's fine.
Great. And one of your teachers was the late Philip Seymour Hoffman in Columbia University. Talk about him. How was he as a teacher? What kind of subject did he teach? And what did you learn from him?
That's a great question. So he just finished shooting Punch Drunk Love, and he was directing a play in New York, and so he had time to teach. So they wanted a class, and even if we were 72 students, he only could have 12. So they said it was by lottery, but it was actually the teachers chose who would be in his class, and I was really lucky to be one of the 12. And he taught directing the actor, and he taught us like how to speak to actors and how to really transform a scene into something that would be kind of spectacular. So our first assignment was to show him our work so he could understand our style. So we showed him what we shot over the summer, and I shot a short film in the Philippines called Quezon City. And it was about like a syndicate, like a crime syndicate and everything. And I showed him my opening scene, and it was all in one shot. And it was with Julia Clarete and Epi Quizon and Jeffrey Quizon. And he actually pinpointed the part of the ending of the scene. He said, what did you give your actor at the end of the scene? And I said, oh, the scene ended a little bit before that, but I like what she did at the table, so I extended the edit of the scene. And then he said, I sensed a sort of generalness to her performance, so you could actually cut the scene earlier because the scene is really good work.
Mm.
And then when he told me really good work, I jumped up in the air, like I couldn't help myself because I was such a big fan of his. And so he encouraged us to get work, whether it's because usually film school says you just get a scene from an old film and we'll and direct it. But he was like, I don't care if it's an old film, if it's your own work, if it's from a comic book, I don't care. So I brought a scene in from Franny and Zooey, which is a J.D. Salinger book, and then I we brought it into class, and you have 2 weeks with actors to rehearse that. And he it's supposed to be funny, but my scene wasn't funny, it was just fine. And then but he watched it, and then he told the actor, he said, when you're bragging to somebody and you're trying to impress somebody, you don't actually brag. You have to like pretend it doesn't mean anything to you. And in doing that, and so he told the actor, it doesn't mean anything to you, but tell her all the things you did that summer. And he started doing that, and the scene became hilarious. And I really realized how to find something, not the first layer of the scene, but something deeper within that scene. And I've taken that within all my work, and been fortunate enough that actors have really responded to the way I direct them.
Mm. And I used to be a drummer too. So do you miss that kind of life? And are you planning to do a musical next or a Filipino sitcom?
That's a great question. So I live in an apartment, so unfortunately I cannot drum here because the neighbors will complain. My husband actually was very sweet. He bought me electric drum set, but it's not the same. Like I can't. It doesn't really feel like you're playing drums. So I hope one day to get a drum kit here and be able to have a band and everything. But in the meantime, my next job is to direct an episode for Grease. It's the prequel. It's called Grease: Rise of the Pink Ladies, and it's a prequel on Paramount Plus. And it's a musical, song and dance and everything. And I feel like that's gonna be like that. I'll be really happy with that because the work that I actually write and direct here are all music films. And so to be able to work on a TV show that is a musical is a dream come true.
Oh, and I usually attend Cinemalaya Film Festival every year, but the pandemic stopped that for a few years. And you've been part of the Cinemalaya. What are the things you discovered being part of that and the new filmmakers that are coming up?
I wish I've been in. I haven't really kept in touch with the new, like maybe the last 7 years of Cinemalaya, but my own experience being part of that group was transformative because, I got to, they gave a seed grant for the film, but in getting that belief and foundation behind you, we got to apply to the NCCA. They gave us more money for post production. We found more producers, and I think the caliber of actors that got to be in our film was fantastic. I got Dan Zulueta and Boboy Gorovillo, and of course Felix Rocco and Dominic Rocco to be the leads. So I feel that Cinemalaya, they were really with us since the script phase, and then I feel that they gave really great notes. And the push and pull of creativity versus like, because they said there was too much English in my script, which I think is really funny, but because it was about a Burgess family. But I do feel that we did even out the language a little bit, but at the same time, um, I was very happy to stick to my guns and having Dominic Rocco be the lead because they were trying to like, they want, sometimes they have a word in casting and stuff. But I do feel that Cinemalaya was so formative because I met so many great filmmakers that ended up really becoming the next wave of filmmakers. So, for example, Isabel Sandoval, who's doing amazing work here, was my batch, and literally we were all in the press cons together and everything. And also, Gino Santos, and also like, you know, Darlene Malimas, the producer, like all these people who I met at the festival, I've kept in touch with until now. So I do feel that that festival was so special, as yeah, at the time.
And you are also the first Filipino director to be accepted in American Film Institute Directing Workshop for Women and being on the faculty of AFI. So tell us why this is so significant for Filipino filmmakers.
I think AFI is such a pillar of cinema in the United States, so respected, and the greatest filmmakers have either spoken or taught or came through that film school. So being the first Filipina from the Philippines to be accepted in their workshop and also teach, I think is historically significant because I get to tell them, like, for example, they're making a list of greatest 100 greatest films by female filmmakers. I looked at the list and I said, why is there no Marlu Diaz-Abaya here? Like, she's been making films since the late 70s, early 80s. Like, at least one, and I would send them the links to her films, and also being a teacher and having the students see another person of color teaching is special for them too. They tell me that they go like, it's really important to have, faculty members who are people of color and and immigrants, and because I do think that adding that layer to this institution that has been has been so formative in Hollywood for hundreds of years, it's important for people of color to be there and to share our voices and our stories. And being a faculty member, you also have a hand in the admissions process. So it's the next bunch of filmmakers. So I love reading, the statements from filmmakers all over the world and seeing who needs, like, who would benefit from this institution and become the next, the future of cinema.
Mhm.
So I think that those are special experiences.
Talk about your cinema sala platform and why you felt there was a need to organize this.
When I was living in the Philippines, we had a very special group of friends called Prod Madness, and it was like all sorry, sorry, it was called Prod Madness, and we were maybe, like, I would say 50 filmmakers, like from cinematographers, writers, directors, and all that. And we would all watch movies together. We would share each other's movies, and we would pitch each other movies. And when I moved to LA, I didn't have that. And I only knew around five people, like five filmmakers. So I wanted to make my own Prod Madness here. So I invited those five filmmakers to this living room, this sala, and this is a projector. And I would show their films, and we would eat and have a potluck, and I would ask them questions. And then from that, it just started to spread. Like, more people like, hey, I have a friend. They're a filmmaker too. They made a film. It got into this festival. And then I invited more and more people, and five people became 15, 15 became 70, and then they couldn't fit in our living room anymore. So Visual Communications invited us to their sala in Little Tokyo, and it was great because in becoming, in expanding and having more filmmakers, we even had speakers come in and different people to curate it. We got to see that there's a huge community of filmmakers, and most of the time they didn't know of each other. They'd all been working for 10 years, didn't know of the existence of another person, and this was a place for all of them to meet and to collaborate. And then and then it just, we're still doing it till this day. And I have to say, from 70, I would say there's like, we're over 100 plus, and there's just more and more beautiful work being spread. And it's great to be able to either see it first here or meet them afterwards.
That's great. And what are your dream projects right now?
Whoa, that's the hardest question.
Mm.
I've been, I would really like, sorry, I would really love to have a Filipino TV show. And that's what I'm pitching right now, actually. We're pitching a TV series. And it's based on a short film that I made a couple years back called Flip the Record, about the DJ scene in the Bay Area, the real life DJ scene in the 80s and 90s. And to just be able to create Filipino content for American mass media is a real dream. Whether it be a feature film down the line or a TV show. Uh-oh. Okay, I disappeared for a second. Whether it's a feature film down the line or a TV show, uh, I have a production company called Indie Pop Films, and we're actually producing an LGBTQ plus rom-com, Filipino-American one. So I'm very excited about that because it's not just about my work; it's all about mentoring other people so that we can have more content out there.
And what would you advise young aspiring women filmmakers who follow your footsteps?
I would just say shoot a lot of things, experiment, because when you realize what your voice is, like what you love making and what is uniquely you, that is what people will notice. And for me, all my experience in the Philippines, making all those music videos, making all those commercials, it got me to experiment with all the genres and like different kinds of like comedy, drama, and everything. And it made me see that I loved, just stories about like with music in it, stories with women or struggles of people of color. And it made me, and also studying made me confident that studying in film school and postgraduate made me confident in my craft. So just, you don't have to go to film school, but you just know yourself. So you know if you need film school or you want to have experience on set. But I knew myself. I love school, so I knew I wanted to go to film school and do all that stuff. So I would just say, if you're passionate about film, just keep making it, and people will notice. When you have work out there.
Very good. And you are also a mother of a young daughter, Harana. I'm really curious, why Harana, her name, and why did you decide that? And would if ever she decides to go into filmmaking, would you allow her?
So Harana, we were looking for a name for our baby girl, and I think I always wanted a Filipino name that was unusual. And so I think it became part of the list. Like I think I think it just came to me one day and it was on the list, and then luckily my husband agreed. However, I was also making a music short film at the time, which had a harana in it. And so it had a different title, but when we were in post production, a wonderful friend told me, like, why don't you just name your short film after your daughter? So I have now a short film called Harana and a daughter named Harana.
Oh,
And sometimes I say it's serenade, sometimes it's love song, but people tend to love it. And then I also wanted a nickname that was a boy's nickname. So her nickname is Harry.
oh, how cute.
Thank you.
And would you allow her to be filmmaker also?
If she wanted to be a filmmaker, of course I will allow her. But knowing how children rebel against their parents, I don't know if she'll do it because my parents are doctors and filmmaking is my way of rebellion.
So you're
So
the only filmmaker in your family?
my sister is an actor and a director, theater director. Jenny Hamora is a yeah.
Hmm.
She
Oh,
does a lot of work in the Philippines. So we're the ones in the industry, and then everyone else has a creative job except for one who's a doctor.
yeah. Yeah, most Filipino parents want their kids to be doctors or lawyers.
Yes, they definitely wanted me to be a lawyer, but luckily I'm the bunso. So by the time it was me, and I said I want to be a filmmaker, they didn't want to fight anymore. They were like, "Fine, be a filmmaker."
And how old is Sarana?
She's 2.5.
Oh, how cute. Well, thank you very much, Marie, for talking to us today, and hope we could meet you in person soon.
Thank you so much, Janet. I would love to see you again in person. I saw you a couple of years back with Moira Lang, by the way.
Oh,
And so,
yes,
yeah, so
yes.
I would love to see you again. And thank you so much for your great questions and for talking to me today.
Okay, thank you.